Often very serious. And our state champion, Kendra Ellis. Not wanting to take this day. Of course she wants to take this day. What do you need? What does she want? A pencil.
I know. The top part fell off and it bounced somewhere.
Well, that's done it now. Okay, and you see the size booklet that she has, which is the size booklet that we prefer and that all competition levels prefer. And if you want to say anything, Kendra, about how you prepared and why you chose this piece.
No.
Okay. Kind of thought so. Okay.
I chose this piece last year. Like,
yes.
As soon as forensics ended.
And what else did you do to get ready that was so against character?
I don't know.
You chose to dress
Oh, dress.
in a dress?
In a dress. All 3 times.
Yes. Why?
I don't know. I wanted to.
Yes, you do.
You do know.
Why did I want to?
You told me it's because of the robots you were up against.
Oh, yeah!
Yes. Thank you, Mom. Yeah.
I wanted to look like them, but I didn't want to look like them.
Right. And so you showed them. Okay. All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, Kendra Ellis.
In the time of Moses, many, many years ago, there was a very romantic custom. When a Jewish woman was truly in love with her husband, she would get his name tattooed on the palm of her hand as a sign of devotion to him. That was the custom. Though it may sound very simple to you, to a Jewish woman it was very significant. You see, in the time of Moses many years ago, people were very careful about the names they chose for their child. They did not choose a name because it sounded beautiful or because it was popular. In the time of Moses, they chose names that stood for the beliefs, the ideals that the family stood for. They chose names that meant peace, honor, revolution. And when a woman wrote that name on her hand, it meant that she stood for something. That she stood with her husband, for her husband. That she held in her hand forever his honor. And when he was gone, she could hold him still and remind her children of what they came from. The strength that was theirs passed on through a name. Just a name. What is a name? To us, it is a way to differentiate between different individuals. But what happens when your name becomes your identity? In Women of the Holocaust by Amy Bridges Williams, we see a woman lose her name and identity and find them both once again. I am A57763. That name too has meaning. It means that I was the 57,763rd person to come Auschwitz. I was the 57,763rd person to be disinfected. I was the 57,763rd person to see the sign on the wall. Work is freedom. Freedom is a funny word to see on the wall at Auschwitz. Well, I married my husband when I was only 18 years old. I met him at the Roman Catholic school where he was studying to be a priest, but when he took one look at me, he just had to give it up. Or so he said. Who could blame him? He was a smart man, gentle, kind. He loved to talk, to hear me talk. He was a good man. You see, the family that took me in told the village that I was their niece. But in 1937, no one realized how extensively the Nazi army would search to find just one person. Who would have thought one life could be so important? They left no stone unturned. And one morning, they came for me. I will never forget that day. We had just finished eating breakfast. My husband was in the living room reading. My daughter was in the kitchen with me. I don't think I mentioned her. She was 4 years old. I was holding a tablecloth when I heard a knock on the door. And I knew I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, holding onto that tablecloth like it was a lifeline. And then suddenly I was somewhere else looking down on a life that I did not know. In the back of my head somewhere was a voice telling me that everything would be okay. It's just a dream. I heard a voice, loud, demanding, and angry, wanting to know where I was, wanting to know where my daughter was. And then another one, this one more familiar, more protective, telling them to go away, to leave us alone. And then a gunshot. I took my daughter into my arms and told her to cover her eyes. And we walked out of that house, out of that life, into Auschwitz. When we arrived, there were guards waiting for us at the train stop. They were shouting and hitting us with clubs, telling us to line up. A man I didn't know came up to me. He told me to leave my daughter on the ground, to get away from her, that she'd be bad for me during inspection. I didn't listen to him. There was a man there dividing the line, setting some to the right and some to the left. The right is life. The left is death. He saw my daughter and he pointed us to the left. Everything was silent. You would think that people being marched to their own death would fight or cry out, but no one said a word. In front of me, there was a child. Behind me, an old woman. So still. So quiet. Through the silence, I heard a voice. It was a voice I had recognized from Rodoma, from the Roman Catholic Church in Rodoma. It was a man who had known my husband well. And now he was an officer in the Nazi army. I called out to him softly. I knew what I had to do. I said, my daughter is only 4 years old. You know that she is only half Jewish. She could be a good servant for you one day. She is smart like her father. I know you can help her. Please. The officer took her into his arms. She would be a good servant. This little thing? Or would she lie like her mother, pretending to be something that she is not? My daughter was frightened and started calling out to me, Mommy! Mommy, please help me! The officer grabbed her face in his hand, shouting, You do not call her that! In here, that is not her name. My daughter didn't understand, and she kept reaching out to me like I could do something. Mommy! Mommy, I want Mommy! He slapped her hard across the face, and she was crying. He said, Oh, look. She's just a Jew like her mother after all. And then he threw her down onto the ground and shot her in the back of the head. The officer looked up at me, smiling. Did you really think that I would help you? You are nothing to me. You are a Christ killer, and you can go to hell where you belong. I fell down onto my knees as I brought my daughter into my arms. She was still warm. I held her close to my chest, rocking back and forth in the silence. Ash falling around us like snow. What world is this that I live in? This world that I once loved, these people that I cared for, this life that I cherished. What world is this that I live in where everything is dead? Where hope is fallen? Oh God of the universe, creator of all things, they have taken everything away from me. Please do not let them take you. You who are mighty and strong and forgiving. Is that you I smell burning in the furnace, consumed by your own love? Their hate. Have they killed God? Tonight, I sit like Hagar in the wilderness, abused and thrown away by your servant Abraham, and I wonder, do you see me here? Does Elroy, the God who sees the suffering of his people, do you see me? Do you know me now? You, the one who gives life, who gives love to creation that hates him. Do you remember me? Or have you forgotten? Because I have not forgotten you. I have your name written here on my heart with so many promises. Please, oh my Father, please hold me. And that night, in Auschwitz, in the middle of a line full of children and cripples, I saw God's hands. I saw God's hands. But they didn't look the way I thought they would. They weren't mighty and strong like Moses's or beautiful and bejeweled like Solomon's, but they were worn and tired like mine. And they were reaching out to me, surrounding, protecting, healing my broken heart. And as God brought me into his arms like a child, I took his hands into mine, and I saw my name. I saw my name. Alleluia. I saw my name.